For decades, humanity was basically a galactic punchline. You know, that primitive species that showed up for a few meetings, looked around, and then just ghosted everyone. They vanished into this self-imposed exile. But here's the thing. While all the great powers of the galaxy were busy talking, humanity was preparing. So let's get into the story of what happened when their 80 years of silence finally, and I mean finally, broke. Okay, so this quote right here, it just nails the galactic consensus. You've got this universe packed with ancient empires, powerful federations, and then there's humanity, seen as this little footnote, a reclusive, kind of backward species, not even worth the effort. And well, that contempt, it set the stage for one of the biggest shocks the galaxy would ever experience. So yeah, our story really kicks off not with some big explosion, but with a deep, profound silence. And it's all symbolized by this one single, perpetually empty chair right in the middle of the galactic Concord. It was a mystery, sure, but it was one nobody really cared to solve because, they figured they already had the answer. And let's just sit with this number for a second. 47. For 47 years in a row, the roll call would get to the Terran Confederation, and every single time, just static. Crickets. This wasn't some clerical error. No, this was a deliberate, sustained, and total withdrawal from everything going on in the galaxy. I mean, think about it. They showed up for what, 3 summits maybe? Almost 80 years ago? They took some notes, and then they just went home and never came back. So naturally, the rest of the galaxy just wrote them off. Oh, the humans? They're too primitive, too scared, too insignificant to even matter. It was a really comfortable assumption for everyone to make, and a dangerously wrong one. So, while humanity was being all quiet, the rest of the galaxy was, well, it was anything but. And their biggest headache, their biggest problem, was the absolutely relentless and brutal expansion of the Rakenmeri hegemony, a nasty empire built on conquest and slavery. And this chart just lays it all out perfectly. You've got the Galactic Concord, the supposed government, totally paralyzed. They're facing actual genocide and conquest by the Rakari. And the response is to, what? Hold more meetings? They talk and they talk, they express grave concern, and in the end, they do absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, the Rakari, they just keep on conquering. And look, this wasn't a new thing. The Concord had a history, a real track record of failure. They had literally stood by and just watched as an entire species, the Melthari, was just wiped from existence. So their inaction, in the face of the Rakari, was just the latest chapter in this long, tragic story of doing nothing. But, while the politicians were busy debating, some people were starting to notice things. Little anomalies. Whispers in the dark that suggested the whole story about the primitive humans might have some pretty big holes in it. And this right here, this is the question that changes everything. The High Chancellor of the Concord, Morvith, starts to think, what if absence doesn't actually mean irrelevance? What if silence isn't a sign of weakness? What if it means something else entirely, something way, way more frightening? So they dig into the classified files, and a truly shocking pattern starts to emerge. For decades, patrols had been spotting these massive warships with tech way beyond anything the Concord had. And every time a patrol tried to get close, poof, they just vanished. And the craziest part, every single sighting, when they traced it back, pointed to one impossible place, that quiet, irrelevant corner of the galaxy where the humans live. And that, right there, brings us to the breaking point. This is where the galaxy's inaction and humanity's long preparation are finally about to collide. The Rakari make their next move, targeting a totally defenseless refugee outpost called Sanctuary Station. The galaxy braces for another tragedy. But this time, something is very different. The stakes here are just astronomical. We're talking about 50,000 refugees. These are the survivors from other worlds the Rakari have conquered, all huddled together on this station. They have nowhere else to go. For them, this is literally the end of the line. So, what's the Concord's response to this imminent slaughter? Well, it's exactly what you'd expect, isn't it? As 50,000 lives hang in the balance, they do the one and only thing they know how to do. They schedule yet another emergency meeting to discuss issuing another strongly worded letter. And then the silence breaks. Space itself just rips open and a fleet appears. And I'm not talking about a patrol or a little squadron. I mean over 1,000 warships. A fleet of a size and sophistication that no one in the galaxy even thought was possible. And every single one of them is human. The message they broadcast to the Ricari isn't a plea for mercy. It's not a request to negotiate. It's just a calm, simple, and utterly terrifying statement of fact. It's an ultimatum delivered with a kind of absolute certainty that only comes from knowing you have overwhelming power. So the Ricari, of course, being arrogant, they attack. The quote-unquote battle is over in 4 minutes. The human ships don't fire to destroy, though. They use these pinpoint accurate weapons to surgically take apart every single Ricari ship. They disable their engines, their weapons, their shields, all without even breaching a single hull. And this might be the most shocking part of the whole thing. The entire Ricari attack fleet is just left floating there, totally helpless, but completely intact. The crews are all alive. The humans didn't come to conquer them. They came to stop a massacre. And they did it with this terrifying display of both incredible power and incredible restraint. So now the stunned galaxy is left with this one single burning question. Why? I mean, why would you hide this kind of power for 80 years? Well, the answer reveals a philosophy of power totally unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. And here it is. This is the whole reason. Humanity looked out at the galaxy, saw this endless cycle of violence and exploitation, and they made a choice. They knew that just getting power is the easy part. The real challenge, the hard part, is gaining the wisdom to use that power justly. Their 80 years of silence, it wasn't about hiding, it was about learning. So you see, humanity isn't just showing up with a new fleet of ships. They're introducing a whole new idea to the galaxy. They're not an empire, they're not some alliance for mutual profit, they're a guardian, a power whose entire reason for being is to stand between the innocent and anyone who would try to harm them. And their offer isn't a demand to kneel. It's an invitation. It's, hey, join us, let's build something better. A coalition that's based not on who owns what territory, but on this one single radical idea, that the strong have a duty to protect the weak. In one move, they declared that the age of comfortable indifference is over. Which, of course, leaves us with the ultimate question, right? Humanity has proven it has the power to do whatever it wants, and it claims it only wants to be a protector. But in a galaxy that has only ever understood power, can a true guardian really exist without, sooner or later, becoming just another ruler? That is the terrifying and maybe hopeful question the rest of the galaxy now has to answer.